So, here we are. Spawning down in the lower left position, we have got the red Terran player. Representing ATN, it's kauP. And in the lower right, the green Zerg, who plays for Team Dignitas, none other than Tefel. Had the pleasure of hanging out a bit with Tefel this weekend at Insomnia 51, where I was of course casting with Penguin. And Tefel made it all the way through to the grand finals there, where unfortunately for him he fell to Hearthstone in a best of 7. So he's going to be looking to really bounce off that, come out fighting, looking strong. And Tefel's the sort of player who can do that. He's so experienced. kauP, someone who is maybe, I'd argue, less well known than Tefel, but still a GM player, very talented, and of course a Terran, which is less common all by itself. Going to be opening up with probably Reapers here by the looks of things, because barracks into gas, generally that's what you'll see. Going to be at least one Reaper, potentially 2, and that somewhat comes down to how kauP wants to play in the mid game. One Reaper is there for scouting. That's its primary purpose. 2 Reapers, probably going to be followed up with 4 Hellions, maybe 6, to try and harass and deal some damage. Over on Tefel's side though, things are looking a lot different. He's opening spawning pool first, which for many Zerg players out there, you would be flipping tables right now and would just be like, what? What is this madness? What is occurring? But this is how Tefel likes to play. He doesn't open hatch first. He's probably one of the only Zerg players who doesn't actually open hatch first against Terran. But it works for him. He's got some really sweet builds. Likes to be quite aggressive. Specifically around that kind of 40-50 supply mark. He tends to grab a decent chunk of lings. Generally around the kind of 12 to 16 mark. And puts on some pressure. Tries to apply some pain. Potentially catching a Terran off guard. But also meaning that he's adequately defended against things like the 2 Reaper 4-6 Hellion play, which we're likely to see out of kauP here. He's adding in the 2nd Reaper, so this generally will lead into that aggressive, harassment heavy style. SCV still mining away nicely, as they always do, and 1 sent on the important task of building the natural base. One of the key things about going for this Reaper expand is getting that expansion down nice and quickly, and also just being able to keep these Reapers alive. That's the big thing that we need to see out of kauP here. If the Reapers die, the follow-up push gets a lot weaker, and that's due to these Reapers being predominantly in the composition early on to scout and harass, but with the Hellions being there to tank up the damage from the Queens. Due to combat drugs, they can pull back, heal up, and be absolutely fine. And it allows those Hellions to get more damage down and actually duke it out with Queens quite early. Tefel for the moment is adding in a ton of drones. Knows he's safe for now, at least until a 2nd Reaper's seen. And while that Reaper isn't being aggressive, Tefel moves forward with his Overlord and confirms his existence because it's at the front. The reason a lot of Terran players do leave this 2nd Reaper close by is because they're not so worried about being aggressive, but actually wanting to sit back and make sure that nothing bad's going to happen. 6 lings can force this to cancel, and you don't really want that at an early stage in the game. So Tefel looking to be going for a very early 3rd base. This is a very bold move by our Zerg player. This is about 5 minutes 40-ish 3rd. Exceptionally early. And, okay, it's not exceptionally early, but it's just pretty early on. So gotta be a little careful with everything that you do here. But the advantage of getting this early 3rd is with the 2 Reapers and the 4 Hellions, it's highly unlikely that a hatchery will get taken down. They just don't have enough damage output to be able to pick off a hatchery. Tefel also going for the very common Evo, Rotron, double Queen wall off. It can also be 2 evolution chambers, just to make sure that no Hellions or anything can run straight through into the natural base. This makes him very safe from this Reaper Hellion play, and his drone line a lot more secure. And because of that, Tefel can add in more drones perfectly safely. No sign of a 3rd CC, which is a common way Terran players will go off this Reaper expand, but instead we're getting a lot more marine production. The double barracks, both with reactors on them, Stim is already half done, so this is going to lead to a lot of Marines being out on the field. Tefel now grabbing a couple of roaches, but what's really interesting is he's also getting the +1 missile attack. I say that's really interesting because generally speaking, Zerg players like to go Zergling, Baneling, Mutalisk up against Terran unless they're going mech. But Tefel isn't your usual Zerg. He is a big advocate of Roach Hydra style compositions, and he is a master of them. Up against pretty much any matchup, any day, Roach Hydra Viper. So probably going to be seeing something similar from him here. Maybe a big Roach push. It certainly can work very nicely. This Overseer is really smart because a lot of Terrans will follow this up with Cloak Banshee. So he's got that mobile detection to be safe in that regard. These Hellions can't really do anything. There's roaches down. Perfectly counters this. Easy to defend. Back at home, kauP, he's just still pumping out a lot of Marines. About to get his first 2 medevacs. And that'll probably signal the follow-up push. Adding in those Marines, adding in those medevacs to start pressuring. The fact that this entire force is still alive, those Hellions, those Reapers, means that it's actually going to be a lot stronger than generally you would see. Hydrogen on its way out as well. The +1 missile attack should be finished for Tefel by the time this push comes, but he's going to be having to cope with multi-prong harassment. Because a drop is heading in towards the main, but due to great creep spread, Tefel knows this is coming, now has to adequately split his army to make sure he's defended at both his third and in his main, so doesn't want to pull too much. A Queen of Creep gets taken down, but it's the third base where the action's really coming down. These roaches have got their work cut out. +1 is just kicked in now. He's got roach speed on its way. He's deflected the push of the third. The drop in the main has also been forced to retreat thanks to those roaches. So everything for Tefel, in terms of his defense, looking sweet. He's doing a great job. Tech Lab being added onto this factory now, probably going to be seeing some tank production, and that's a great response up against these roaches. A few siege tanks, shut them down, easy peasy. But Tefel's not out of the woods yet. kauP coming in with a lot of Hellions from the other side, sneaking through. A couple of drone kills, but a lot of roaches and Hydralisks gonna have something to say about that. So while 5 drones have fallen this game so far, Tefel still up at the 61 drone count, which is a little bit lower than some Zergs would be at near 11 minutes into the game. But with this many roaches and Hydras, Tefel's going to be able to be putting on some pressure. Will this walled off hold? It's got a decent number of units behind it. A tank is about to be out, but kauP can't afford to take too many losses. Nor can Tefel though, as these Hellions come through. Quite a few drones getting roasted here. A good number of kills, pretty much doubling the total losses in the workers. But Tefel looking to apply that pressure now. There's no bunker. The roaches and Hydras moving forward. The siege tank just out in time to start shelling away. But will it be enough? SCVs being pulled, which is always a bold desperation move. But these Hydralisks just dishing out so much damage with the 1-1 upgrades over kauP's lack of any upgrades is going to force him to abandon his natural base. Down goes a lot of supply depots. No supply block for kauP. But Tefel, he's up massively in supply. 142 to 52. And he's got the upgrade lead. And he's got the worker lead now, having picked off 25 SCVs with that push. Tefel, he's positioned himself in this first map in a beautiful, beautiful spot. A medevac attempting to retreat away, took a lot of damage. A drop going on in the main during all of that. But Tefel didn't really take much, if any, damage from it. And is now in a commanding position. These rocks getting taken down just so if Tefel does have to engage here, he can get a better concave and move up with more of his army. But with no wall off at this natural base, things are looking tough. Overseer coming over. If that gets sniped, it'd be big because there'd be no vision on the high ground to pick off the tanks. Prioritization now coming through. 1 tank dies. GG called, and Tefel takes game number 1 of this best of 3.